Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Scott Luton, Greg White here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Gregory, how are we doing?
We are with you. Yes, I'm doing quite well. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Got a little rain already this morning. I had a
Yeah.
great weekend. We've got a jam-packed show, some things that I think we're going to enjoy sharing our take and the facts, just the facts with our global audience. And
Yeah.
Greg, getting their take, right? We've really enjoyed that, especially in recent live streams. Been pretty lively around here, hasn't it?
It has really very super engaged and a lot of new faces, right? So it's been pretty cool to watch. And what's interesting is when we have the shows where we have a guest on and they get to see it. I think they're a little bit taken aback by how
Right.
engaged, how intellectual our audience is, right? I mean, they're not just throwing out there what they had for lunch today or are going to have for lunch. That's us.
That's right. That and the weather
Yeah.
and sports, maybe. But
Yeah.
kidding aside, they are. I think the engagement, folks, we love. Y'all bring it every time. Live streams, webinars, whatever. Really appreciate it. And you share, as Greg mentioned, just how savvy and been there, done that our audience is and how global. That's a cool thing because you are getting perspective from folks, not just here in the States, but really around the world. So y'all keep delivering like we know supply chain pros know how to do, despite all the obstacles. And we lean into each of these 1 hour long live stream global lunchtime discussions or morning or evening. Kind of depends on Greg,
Wherever you are. Yeah.
wherever you are. We're going to say hello, folks, to a few folks here momentarily. But first, let's share a couple of upcoming events where talk about being interactive,
Yeah.
more opportunities, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
So this week, August 24th, I think that's Thursday, we've got a big webinar coming up with ShipHawk where we're going to be talking about key elements to a successful warehouse management system lifecycle from selection through implementation, through optimization and operation. Greg, WMS, it is a golden age of WMS here lately, right?
It seems like it always is. I mean, I keep thinking, yeah, you're right. I mean, first of all, I keep thinking that how many more companies could need WMS because you hear about it all the time. It's one of the most popular solutions out there.
Right.
But every time you hear about another innovation in WMS, you get another statistic that says something like 80 or 90% of companies still don't have it.
What in the
Right.
world?
And it is stunning to me that that's the case. You know, the company I had before, Blue Ridge, we competed in a way with WMS. People would decide whether they were going to solve their supply chain challenges with just knowing where their stuff is, right? Or doing something about the quantity of their stuff. And it's so easy. I think WMS is a great place. It's so easy to see, and I mean literally see the results of putting that technology in there. So
Right.
ShipHawk's doing some cool stuff, right?
Yep.
I mean, so it's going to be great to hear from Ron and Bob.
So join us 12 noon on Thursday, August 24th. Free to attend, but you got to register. Check out the link we just dropped in the comments. And then coming up on August 31st, I guess that's next week. Hard to believe we're already at the end of August. We're collaborating with Six River Systems on a free webinar, how to use data to improve fulfillment operations. So check that out. They're going to have a couple of their customers speaking about how they use data in their operations. So it should be a great learning opportunity, August 31st, 12 noon Eastern time. And then finally, Greg, before we say hello to a few folks, we have been partnering with U.S. Bank for quite some time. You see there the U.S. Bank Freight Payment Index. We covered the Q2 2022 version of the index probably about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago when it was released, Greg.
Yep.
Chock full of data and insights. And Greg, well, what's really cool about it is we partnered their data, right, the one and only Bobby Holland, with a senior level practitioner for ministry. And we really have a kind of hybrid conversation on the data, but also what we're seeing out in the market, right? And sometimes it agrees, sometimes it doesn't agree. But Greg, always a pleasure. And it's free to sign up for the index, right?
It is. And, it's like $37 billion worth of transactions is how they get the data to do this. And I can't remember the number of transactions, but it's a huge number as well. And it's a great indicator for why you saw what you saw, and not for Bobby to do. Of course, banks can't project, right?
Right.
But lots of companies like Clorox and the others, Mondelez and others that have joined us, they do use it to not only analyze what's happened, but to try to predict what's going to happen in the future. And good luck with that, no matter how much data you have, because I think we're still kind of dealing with some slack and disruption at the same time. I know that sounds crazy, right? But
Plenty.
we're going to talk a little bit about that in one of the articles today.
We are. Freight.usbank.com. Check it out. Free resource out there, but you do have to sign up for it. Okay. So, Greg, we've kind of shared some upcoming resources. We've challenged our global family to keep bringing their perspective. One of our favorite parts. We've got four stories teed up here today, which we're going to jump into in just a second. But before we do, Greg, one of our favorite parts, we want to say hello to a few folks out there. Samantha via LinkedIn.
Hey.
Great to see you here. Let us know where you're tuned in from, Greg.
Yep.
Any guesses, Greg? Looks like she could be traveling. That might be the Eiffel Tower behind her.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to guess. I mean, obviously she's been in Paris.
Right.
I'm not going to guess she is there.
Well, gorgeous city of Paris, France. Our dear friend Jenny Froome was just there. And Samantha, let us know where you're tuned in from. Great to have you. Josh Goody, he says, someone has stolen the rain from Seattle, and I don't like it. Good morning, all.
It was us here. It has been raining off and on almost every day in the Southeast since, early last week, right?
Yeah, it's been raining a lot. In fact, we were just looking
You're welcome, Josh.
We were just looking at our water bill. Yes, riveting information this morning. But we had a little lawn work done, so we had to water a lot about 3 months ago. And all this rain lately, we barely had to water it in the last 30 days. And Greg, I'm ashamed to tell you what that water bill was 3 or 4 months ago, but we spent only $70 in water bill over the last 30 days. So that's good. So Josh, we're stealing your rain there. Jeremy's back with us. Supply Chain Now fam. That's right. Great to have you here. I tell you, really have enjoyed your perspective, Jeremy, in live streams and webinars. And
lighten it up from Doodah.
That's right.
As we call Kansas.
And looking forward to what he shares today. Sadamit tuned in from North Carolina via LinkedIn. Great to see you here. And
Where in North Carolina? I'm going to guess Raleigh.
Okay, that's a great guess.
Let's see. We'll just see.
I'm gonna cheat a little bit and guess the Triangle area, which
that's Raleigh. Durham.
Raleigh, Durham, and what's the third city that makes up?
Is that Cary? Is Cary big enough to make up part of the Triangle?
So Sadamit, let us know.
Yeah.
We're probably butchering the definition of triangle, but great to have you here.
Please let us know what the 3 cities are.
Jonathan, welcome back. I've enjoyed your perspective from Louisiana. Says he learned so much. Well, hey, if you're not learning, Greg, you're regressing.
Well, to quote
right?
the great philosopher, you're either growing or you're dying. There ain't no third direction. Big Tom Callahan.
That's right. Big Tom Callahan. Love it. Randall is tuned in from Auburn University via LinkedIn. And Greg, you may know, I believe Gartner ranked Auburn University in the top 5 of its 2022 supply chain undergraduate programs. How about that?
Wow, really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I don't think I've seen that, Scott.
If I'm not mistaken, I was just
Arkansas still won?
Yes. I was just looking at that last week. And if I'm not mistaken, and Randall, let me know. I think 4 out of the top 5 supply chain programs, or as ranked by Gartner, were all from the SEC, the Southeastern Conference.
Oh boy, strange? You'll never hear the end of that now, right? SEC's favoritism.
That's right. That is right. Well,
on the one hand, there's who knows who, and over here you got favoritism. Seriously though, Scott, breaking into the top 5 and breaking up those kind of top positions. I once heard a data scientist and mathematician say that's very, very almost impossible to do, right?
Okay.
Like it's, he explained, and I got it at the time, but I've slept since then, explained why it is so impossible to unseat Wharton as the best business school in America, because there's so much, not just statistical, but anecdotal momentum
Okay.
there. So
Very
that's
interesting.
huge to see that change. And by the way, I applaud Gartner for probably tweaking how schools are evaluated
Mhm.
to do that. They're very, very good about that. I remember when they started figuring out how to rank cloud-based technologies versus the old on-prem, and they kind of get in front of the curve
Mm.
for things like that and start showing you what's coming down the
They
pipe. So
do.
that's good.
Well,
War Eagle.
congrats. That's right. Congrats, War Eagle. Home with Auburn Tigers and the War Eagles. Hey, they play great enough sports, and they have a great enough supply chain program to have two mascots. Hey, all in
Well,
good fun.
nobody really can tell you where that came from. By the way, War Eagle. There are like 5 philosophies and 3 that kind of rise to the top. So
Really?
yeah.
Well, maybe Randall can share his favorite version of that. But
Yeah.
regardless, congrats to Auburn and all the schools that made the top 25 list that Gartner compiled. Because I agree with you, Greg. Gartner is out front, and Mike Griswold will be back with us in about 2 weeks for his monthly appearance. Goes by fast.
Yeah, it does.
Gene Pledger. Now, I bet we just were not making GP's day because we were
I bet
talking
he's
about
not
Auburn.
an Auburn fan.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Gene Pledger is a big Bama fan. And, Gene, let us know what the University of Alabama, some of their strongest programming is. I'd be curious. But regardless.
Football.
That's right.
Sorry, Gene. I know you have academics there.
That's right. But, Gene, great to see you here today, as always. Stephen, hello via LinkedIn. Let us know where you're tuned in from. Appreciate you being here. Krista, also good morning to you. Tuned in via LinkedIn. Let us know where in the world you're tuned in from. Umar, I believe this is. Good afternoon. Umar from Senegal via LinkedIn. Great to see you today. If I get your name wrong, it's not from a lack of trying. I speak Georgia English, and that prevents me sometimes, Greg, making certain syllables, right? So, hey, let us know. We won't get everybody's name right, but Umar, great to have you.
That's not a joke, Scott, by the way. I mean,
That's right.
If you watched people try to speak a foreign language, it's why you get the pigeon, which is not the bird. The pigeon version of all these languages is because it's not natural for them to like shape their mouth, right? The way that you do for certain words. So
that's right.
It is to be forgiven, even if you're in Germany, which it's not ever forgiven. You must always only and ever speak the most proper German ever.
Man, that sounded great, Greg.
To you, I'm sure somebody in Germany is going to, crucify me.
You're going to get it in feedback. But Umar, great to have you here from Senegal. Looking forward to your perspective. Philando is back with us from Huntsville via LinkedIn. Great to see you, Philando. Greg Studer, good morning from a beautiful August day in Wisconsin.
Oh, man.
Greg.
Yeah, he's probably about 30 days from 3 feet of snow. But enjoy it while it lasts, Greg, because summer is beautiful if you don't get hauled off by a mosquito, the state bird of Wisconsin. No, it is. It's beautiful. I love it. We just spent a little bit of time at a ball game with a cat from Wisconsin.
That is right. Who's essentially becoming a legend in the digital content arena. So more on that to come soon.
Not just a podcaster, Jason Hoke, right?
That's right.
No longer the How Stuff Works guy.
Right.
Now he is, he's so expanded his horizons.
He's like Steven Spielberg.
Unbelievably knowledgeable about baseball. Holy mackerel. I don't know how he has the time. I don't know how you have the time. I sat there like a drooling idiot listening to you guys talk about all those players.
So Greg's talking about a game we attended where the Atlanta Braves took on the New York Mets, but it was the one out of the 4 games set recently, the only one we lost. But we had good company, great food, and lots of great conversation. So Greg, hope remains a beautiful day in Wisconsin, and thanks for sending that article along. I hadn't had a chance to dive into that, but great to have you here. Shelley Phillips is back with us. She's always dropping a truckload of perspective on these things from the great state of Colorado, tuned in via LinkedIn. Iqbal, good morning, supply chain family. I'm from Pakistan. via
Where
LinkedIn.
in Pakistan? That's what I'd like to know.
So Iqbal, let us know. Let us
One
know
of the
what
first
city.
contractors that I hired for a previous company was from Pakistan. Oh my
Really?
gosh, it's outside of Islamabad. I cannot remember what the name is. He was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
amazing.
let us know what part of the country. Mark Preston is here from Peachtree City via LinkedIn. Mark,
Now
great
we
to
know
see
where
you.
that is.
That's
Where the
right.
golf carts are.
That is right. Mark, hope this finds you and your family well. Let's see here. Samana, that's what we were talking about earlier. She is from the western portion of France. What is that? How do you pronounce
Nantes.
that?
Nantes. You don't say the TES.
Just
It's
none.
just Nantes or Nantes, something like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Well, Samantha, great to have you here. Looking forward to
Yeah,
your
maybe you
perspective.
can. Maybe she can give us a lesson,
Yes.
maybe phonetically. Rawalpindi, that's what I was thinking of in Pakistan.
So Randall says, yes, Auburn's number 4 in undergrad and top 15 in the master's program. So
Wow,
Auburn's
that's
doing
awesome.
big things. Marie, I agree with you. She says, I love how Greg turns on the y'all accent when talking about the SEC. Yes. Marie, great to have you here
Yeah.
today. All right. I know we can't hit everybody here. I see a lot of regulars and some new faces. T Squared's with us. Hugh is with us, back with us. Let's see here. Stephen Adarami, you name it, but great to have everybody. And we want to get y'all's take from the stories we're about to hit. So, Greg, we better get to work, huh?
Can I share just one supply chain disappointment before we do this? So, want a new chair. Ordered it from, my opinion, the greatest furniture store on the planet, Ikea.
Okay.
They promised me delivery in 2 days.
Yeah.
And 2 days expired on Saturday. And now they're promising me delivery on the 23rd, which is tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
Embarrassing.
Right.
Yeah. 23rd, which is tomorrow. And I've done, of course, we've all been disappointed, and we're going to talk a little bit about that disappointment again in one of these articles. We've all been disappointed, but I was thinking about why that could be for IKEA, which is so excellent in everything other than that. And I think back to when I ordered office furniture and had kind of a similar thing happen in 2018. So no excuses there. And I think it is because their customer base is so used to coming into IKEA for a day at the store.
Okay.
Right? Their Swedish meatballs are pretty darn good. Not the best, but it's the United States. What do you expect? And you can just spend a whole day in the store going, I'll take that room, right? I want this Kvorknish or whatever. And I think that they have never really built a delivery infrastructure.
Okay.
Because the order completely disappeared. Then it showed up in FedEx with an exception, something I have never seen before. Anyway, I think that one of you folks out there, let's talk to IKEA and up their game a little bit.
Yes.
I feel like they could really, really expand their business, certainly in the States, with a better order management delivery structure, right?
I'm with you.
Very disappointing. I mean, honestly, as a huge fan, unbelievably disappointing. And no notification, just one day they say it's going to show up on the 23rd instead of the 20th.
Well, maybe that's why everybody goes to the store and stands in line, because they have such a tough time, reliable time and experience in getting stuff delivered. I know we have modified what we have ordered so that we can fit whatever they'll ship and get it here whenever we need it. So, Greg, we'll have to get on the line with the folks over at IKEA.
Well, yeah, and their customer service experience, wow. I mean, I'd never had to have it. They have some bear named Duncan or something like that, and you have to go, that didn't help, like 3 times, and then he finally asks, would you like to talk to a human being?
Really?
And then I think I'm still waiting. Hold on, I'll check. That was 4 hours ago.
Okay. All right. So, lesson learned: if you ship Greg something, make sure it's got all the information he needs, and it is what he needs.
I mean, that's not
when.
me, right? That we should be able to expect more out of a great company like IKEA.
That's right.
It has nothing to do with me. I'm sure other people have the same story with the same or other retailers.
Well, we've got some comments along those lines.
It was online, Josh.
Okay. So let's get to the bottom of it. So we'll see if we can't get some other experiences from the IKEA e-commerce experience. And by the way, Krista, we asked earlier, she's tuning in from Baldwin, Wisconsin. So much like Greg, enjoying probably a late summer in Wisconsin. I bet it's nice and cool. Jonathan tuned in from California, where he's sending love, which love that. Jonathan, great to have you here via LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay. So Greg, are
Yes,
we ready
Scott.
to dive into the first story today?
I am now that I've ranted, I am ready. Okay.
No, that was that wasn't. I've seen the Greg White patented rants.
Almost everyone here has, haven't they? Right. So if you're new, just wait; it'll happen.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, we're going to try to get everybody's comments here today. A lot of comments here today, so keep them coming. I want to dive into the first story here today, which y'all may have heard about. The labor strike taking place in the United Kingdom, as reported by Reuters here. About 2,000 workers at Felixstowe. Is that how we pronounce that, Greg? Felixstowe?
Felixstowe,
Okay.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. So about 2,000 workers.
I can't do an English accent, so I won't try.
Well, as Amanda would say, I cannot do any accent. So that usually keeps me in line. But about 2,000 workers at Felixstowe went on strike over the weekend, prompted by mainly a dispute over wages. In case you didn't know, a little perspective here, Felixstowe is located on the east coast of England. I think we've got a rough map here.
Yeah, much smoother waters.
That's right. About 93 miles from London. It is the UK's busiest port, handling about 4 million TEUs or 20-foot equivalents per year, and handles almost half of the country's container trade. So you put all that into perspective, though, the busiest port outside of Asia lies just across the English Channel there. You see Rotterdam. The port of Rotterdam handles over 15 million TEUs. At least it did in 2021. So the strike is projected to last about 8 days. By all accounts, Greg, it appears that any impact or the disruption is going to be regionalized, and but what's your take, Greg?
Well, their complaint is that they got a measly cost of living increase last negotiation, and a measly 7%,
right?
Which is a huge uplift, by the way, but still less than the rate of inflation in the UK, which it makes our excessive rate of inflation, 40-year high, look measly by perspective. So right. I think what's interesting is that about 500 of the workers accepted the deal, but the other 1,500 did not.
Really?
So, yeah. The article goes into the Port Workers Union, which is somehow different. You guys, I'm not going to pretend like I know how that all works, but they had accepted the deal, but the other 1,500 did not. So, I mean, this is the nature of things. And what's interesting is, at the same time, inflation and recession. They've announced recession in the UK because they're honest about it, whereas we haven't here in the States because we're not.
Right.
There's a little rant for the new kids. But all of that is going to start to back up. I think salaries are going to start to level off. Hopefully, if these banks can get control of inflation, and I don't think that they can solely, it's going to take some other factors, like most of us ceasing to buy things at these incredulous prices. But if they can, these people are going to get a raise, and then the price of things should start to come down. So I know it's hard to foresee that, and I would never expect someone on the dock to be that tuned into global or even their national economy. Or, by the way, to bet on that. I mean, what if economists are wrong? And I don't know if you know this, Scott, but on occasion, every single occasion, economists are wrong about recessions.
Yeah, it's like sports predictors, right?
If you're wrong, nobody remembers. Right?
Or the weather, with the weather meteorologist, same thing.
What an easy job that is, right?
Well, Excellent thoughts there. And we'll see. It's projected to go 8 days. And I think it kicked in yesterday, being Sunday here in the States. So we'll see what gets negotiated and when we can get everyone back to work. All right. Really quick. Mohammed is in supply chain management from Bangladesh. Great to see you here, Mohammed. Balan is from the UAE.
You can go see our friend Kim Winter.
That's right. I bet Kim Winter pops in. I saw him busy over the last couple of days. Greg at yet another event. He was doing some sailing too. But Balan, great to see you here today. And Shelly is saying, "Go, Greg." So want some more rants?
I know what she's saying it too. It is a recession.
Well, Shelly, Balan, Muhammad, and many others. Great to see you here today.
Thanks for tuning in.
So let's get into the second article here today. Greg, you commented via one of your patented and growing legendary supply chain commentaries. You dove into this, what's going on over at Sally Beauty Shop.
Golly, yeah.
Sally Beauty stores, maybe. This is new to me. You know, it was new to me, Greg. And then I Googled as I was kind of diving into the story. There's like 8 stores right around our neck of the woods out here. So, but Greg, let us know what's going on over at Sally Beauty.
Well, I guess maybe only I was surprised, kind of like you, Scott, that things had gotten so bad, because the comments, frankly, more than my commentary, were enlightening. In unnatural fashion, I kind of took it easy on these folks, because I also looked into the fact that their stock is down, but they're from a financial management standpoint, they're a pretty efficient company. They're just apparently investing in the wrong products right now, because what I've heard since the commentary is that the shelves have been empty or, gappy for a long time. And, and I was kind of stunned by that. It's funny how you have to look at things from the inside to recognize that obviously this is a company that's doing a very, very poor job managing their inventory. What I did like about the commitment from their CEO, who you have to forgive me, I looked at the link and then I immediately forgot her name. But anyway, they are very dedicated to making some changes, and that's good. Obviously, they've got a problem in their planning process, and probably my guess is the technology that supports that. So they need to obviously shake some things up, and they are willing to do it, which is a good sign. And sometimes companies have to, I think we've all experienced this, they have to fall off a cliff before, they learn how to, whatever you do to keep yourself from falling off a cliff. They, right? I mean, they have to really be hit hard before they go and address something like this. But what's interesting is that they still beat their sales estimate. Even though they lost 15 million in sales, okay, they still beat their sales estimate. So that tells me there was clearly an awareness of the fact that they were struggling with appropriate inventories, and that they're committed to it is interesting and good. We'll see. And I'm going to track, I'm going to keep touch with some of the folks that made comments here, because they brutalized these folks.
Really?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's not just a Sally problem, but Shelly Phillips had some, scathing comments, and I think appropriately so. I mean, if you read her commentary, it is right on target from what I've seen. And but I'm trying to think. Tempest Woodford also commented on it. Ryan Lynch, Tiffany Brewer is talking about how that runs through retail, but I think Sally is an exceptional case, and maybe some companies do this when they're public. Maybe they announce this as, here's what happened, and we're on it to stem the tide of losses in terms of the stock.
Denise Polonis, the CEO, I believe, president CEO.
There you go.
Of Sally Beauty Holdings.
Yeah, Polonis. Right.
And to your point, Shelly says, I hope Sally gets her makeover. And she says, Shelly, talking about Sally,
She held
I
back.
held back.
You can almost tell, except that she said dull and dingy
Right.
about the stores. So now I want to go in and look at a store because
Yeah.
Ulta, which I think even most guys have heard of.
Yeah.
Ulta is one of their big competitors, and I think up around our house in Atlanta, I think there is a Sally store, and it seems crowded. If I remember it correctly, it's next to a really good Chinese restaurant.
Okay.
It seems crowded and dark. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of what Shelley was saying.
Well,
I'd have to go look.
We will keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on over at Sally Beauty, and enjoyed not only your commentary, but all the folks that weighed in as well.
Yeah.
I want to go back before we move to the next story. I want to share this comment from Krista, kind of along the lines of Ikea and now Sally Beauty. Krista says, I think there's much need around on-time delivery in the entire supply chain realm. Not just Ikea, but many retailers, companies, and stores that offer delivery are struggling to get places on time. Holding carriers accountable presents a challenge in itself. A big conversation, Krista continues to say, we are having with our clients and customers is that there was a big shift, twice, if you will. People were at home and were willing and able to be flexible with the deliveries that took place at their homes. And then I think that shifted. I couldn't get the rest of her comment there. But lots of it's only gotten harder. However, Greg, as we've seen time and time again, some of the more innovative organizations, leadership teams, management teams that's looking for and implementing more effective ways to navigate the current landscape while also communicating very transparently to customers.
Right.
Those
setting
are the ones
the expectations.
setting the expectation. Yes.
I don't get mad if you tell me it's going to be the 23rd.
That's
right.
You're so
or
right.
If
Greg.
you tell me there's a disruption that has now made it the 23rd, but when the date just changes on the day that I'm expecting delivery. Anyway.
That's right.
Yeah.
Along those lines, I got a mixing, one of those nice mixing bowls, the bread hook. I can't remember the name. Maybe Cuisinart, maybe, or anyway. I got it. What was that, Amanda? You could type that in. She yelled from around the corner, but it was for Amanda, and I think it was a holiday gift or maybe birthday gift. This was 2 years ago, so this is right in the thick of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everything was delayed, as you might expect, Greg. But man, you could reach and speak to someone with, directly. They were upfront with what they were experiencing. They weren't promising something tomorrow that wasn't going to be here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And that has stuck with me. And, to your point, Greg, setting the right expectations and being able to communicate with customers beyond the operational execution and new wrinkles we've got to, and difficulties we've got to lean into there. Just talk straight with the customer. That will resolve so much up front, and not burn people, not make people angry, Greg?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you have to set gosh, Scott, it feels like when we were talking a lot about CX, right? CX is more than just what the website looks like. Customer experience is all about the entirety of the experience. And I think a lot of companies, they know how to do it. To Josh's point, they are very good in the store, right? And they've set an expectation, kind of a European expectation of, hey, expect to wait in line at the store. We're going to feed you, and you can get ice cream right after you pay, which, by the way, is why I tolerate it. But what they haven't done, they've done a terrible job, for instance, at IKEA, of setting that expectation online. And I think that is where so many companies who are late to the e-commerce party, that is where they have enabled it, but have they really created a pleasurable experience for the consumer? And I just think no, in a lot of cases. And of course, everybody was willing to accept a late delivery during the pandemic because where were they going?
Right.
Oh, I'll wait an extra 2 days, I guess. Right. I'll just have, I'm going to have to make another Drizzly order.
Right.
In the meantime, but I'll wait.
Yep.
And now people are back to that kind of 2-day, do what you promise expectation.
Yep. So I'm getting corrected. So KitchenAid
KitchenAid.
was the brand, not
How
Cuisine
come
or whatever.
Shelly knows?
I don't know. Maybe her and Amanda have chit chatted or something. I don't
Man,
know.
no
But
kidding.
KitchenAid really handled that well, and of course they've got great products. I want to share a couple of other comments here. Josh says online loves to reserve the right to take 2 business days to confirm orders if they have 2 days for delivery, 2 business days. Worked in a call center for 2 years, working with the lack of communication and establishing expectations.
That
Josh,
must be specifically at Ikea.
right? Well, that Josh would love weigh in. Let us know.
Yeah.
But would love to. I bet you've got some stories that you could
To
share.
tell, yes. Yeah.
Jonathan, you're right. Transparency and authenticity. You nailed it. We need more of that, and not just between retailers and customers, but retailers and their suppliers. I think, Greg, we've talked a lot about that. There's meaningful partnerships that help to power the visibility that is table stakes these days. So, Jonathan, well said there.
Mm-hmm.
Krista says, you both said it well. Yes, transparency, expectations. I think a big thing is proactive approaches to issues that happen and notification to the consumer.
Amen, sister.
Amanda's confirming. Thank you for the correction. It was a KitchenAid mixer and one of my all-time favorite gifts.
So Shelly also, also what?
We're gonna have to get to the bottom
She's
of Shelly
psychic?
Phillips. Yeah,
She's psychic. We definitely need her in supply chain.
Shelly, we're gonna have to learn more about. You've got quite the journey between. Well, we get a little piece of her story with each live stream, so we're going to dive into some of the recipes she wrote about. Hey, Luke Small is with us here.
Holy mackerel! And confirming the weather for Josh.
Yes, Josh. You
with
and Luke
with an Irish accent also, which is super cool. I love to hear Luke talk. So if you haven't ever seen him speak, he's got all kinds of videos out there.
That's
Digital
right.
Transformation Pro right there. And like super cool to listen to.
So Luke and Josh, y'all hailing from the same part of the neck of the woods, you're going to have to get together. But Luke, great to have you. Really enjoy your digital transformation. Been there.
Call Ikea, Luke, and help them with their e-commerce digital transformation, please.
All right. So moving right along, this is going to be a jam-packed episode of the Supply Chain Buzz here at Supply Chain Now. We a really cool story got my attention over the weekend. I think Theo put this on my radar. So love this news from Ben & Jerry's, as reported via Food Dive, as a company which, by the way, Greg, is now owned by Unilever. Some folks may not know that. It continues its efforts to combat modern slavery and child labor in the chocolate supply chain. So Ben & Jerry's announced a new partnership with Tony's Chocolonely. I hope I said that right, Greg. Tony's Chocolonely. That is expected to, amongst other things, improve working conditions for farmers, optimize the traceability of cocoa beans, creating more visibility about those labor concerns.
Mm-hmm.
But to be fair, many chocolate and candy companies have kicked off improvement initiatives to address similar concerns, especially in the chocolate industry, which, by the way, is expected to surpass $67 billion as a global industry in 2025. Now, Greg, what say you about this new partnership and what they're aiming to do?
It's about damn time, and thank you. It has gotten so bad in the cocoa industry that I'll regionalize so as not to expose specific companies. Certain organizations in Africa, governments, had ceased to send chocolate to certain organizations in Switzerland, chocolate companies, because of their abject refusal to actually help kind of solve things with the forced labor issues and other tragic issues of the cocoa industry, which you can read about all over the place. So I'm glad. Of course, anytime Ben & Jerry's gets involved, I know Ben and Jerry are mostly figureheads now, but anytime they get involved, something good is going to happen. It's a great culture, and I think it's good to see a big company like Unilever continuing to enable all of that. social impact that Ben and Jerry's has had for so long.
We've talked, speaking of Unilever, multiple times over the course of the last few months, and some of the ways that they're truly leading where global supply chain, what they should be doing, what we should be doing. So I agree with you. I love the spirit in which they're honoring how Ben and Jerry's was founded, and what they did from do the right thing, and not just do what everybody else is doing, but really lead, right?
Yeah.
And Unilever is really, as you put it, enabling that to happen and drive the impact that's got to take place, because the cocoa bean industry, the chocolate, global chocolate supply chain, has really gained a notoriety for some of these practices that we just can't be tolerated.
Yep.
There's one thing I was going to share, Greg.
I got a sec. Go ahead.
Hang on a sec. Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah.
What is my favorite flavor is Cherry Garcia, and I could eat that by the barrel. Any favorite flavors on your end?
I'm embarrassed to say I don't know the names of them.
Moose Tracks, I think, is one. I mean, we'll see. Amanda, Clay,
their chocolate is quite good. So, honestly, that's why I know as much as I know about the cocoa supply chain.
So, Cherry Garcia, Greg, if you hadn't had this, I'm going to fix this in the next couple of days, because it is one of their historically most popular flavors, and it's like a cherry cordial ice cream with chunks of cherry, chunks of chocolate, of course, delicious ice cream, and it was named after Jerry Garcia, as you might expect. And I can't remember. There's a great quote. I took a deep dive into this thing not too long ago, because I've eaten it my entire life.
You need to do a Biz History episode about Cherry Garcia, man.
We do, but he had an interesting response once he got the call that they were naming an ice cream after him before he passed away, and it was one of those legendary responses. I have to dig it up, but anyway, Cherry Garcia, we're gonna remedy that and get you one of the best ice creams in the world. Let's see here. Half Baked is one. Chocolate chip cookie dough. Clay's a big fan of Chunky Monkey and Half Baked. Marie, Ben and Jerry's, everything but the that's one of the ice creams. Everything but the kitchen sink, I think, or everything but something. Yeah. Hugh, strawberry shortcake, and Cherry Garcia. See, Cherry Garcia is just some of the best stuff.
I think you guys are just old stoners, and that's why you like it.
Maybe so, but you know what?
You're Grateful Dead fans. So,
well, all that kidding aside, great move here. Ben and Jerry's partnering with Tony's Chocolonely, and we'll keep a finger on the pulse of the real outcomes that are driven by these. So moving right along, Greg.
Yeah, and congrats to Unilever for doing the right thing. I can't believe we have to say that, but
right.
But whatever.
Yeah,
I don't care why you do good. I just care that you do good.
Right. And as you know, me and you both know, consumers, folks, it's what we tolerate as consumers. I mean, do your homework. We should all, and I'm not pointing fingers, we should all do our homework on these different brands and really support those that are doing the right thing to end some of the travesties that go on across global industry. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into this I thought really intriguing article via Market Watch. So let me share a few highlights here. I'm not going to say Reader's Digest. A few TikTok highlights here.
Oh, there you go. Oh, man.
We're trying.
That's awesome.
And for folks, you may not, some of the folks here may be new. For my entire life, I've referred to short summaries of information as the Reader's Digest version. And lately, our team here has said, Scott, no one knows what Reader's Digest is anymore. You got to update your references. And I'm trying.
If we were on the 5 o'clock news, all the 77 plus people that watch it, which is apparently the only people who watch news these days, by the way, on television, they would all know what you're talking about.
Right.
So if you ever get a job at CNN or CBS or ABC or NBC, you'll be right in the right audience for that.
That is good to know.
Yeah.
Food for thought. So This article here from Market Watch on the future of transportation and some of the challenges we've been discussing, Greg, for quite some time, but
Mhm.
kind of through a different lens. So this was written by Dr. Joseph Coughlin, and he uses a trip to the tire shop as kind of a vehicle for spotlighting some of these supply chain dilemmas. But check out these data points. That's my favorite part. Some of these opinion pieces, which this technically is, it's all opinion and no data. And
Mm.
no real factoids and numbers and statistics, but this has got a lot of that in here. So check out these. Remember the $1 trillion in federal spending or thereabouts, rounding, I guess, on
Yep.
infrastructure that was passed not too long ago. Well, the labor woes that can be found everywhere else in global supply chain, well, can also be found in the construction industry. Get this, the Associated Builders and Contractors Group has identified almost 400,000 open construction jobs as of spring 2022. That's up 60,000 openings since last year. Speaking of talent, even if you can hire workers, good luck keeping them. Take the automotive service industry, like the technicians that keep your cars humming right along, especially if you're like me and you don't have that skill set or the smarts or the ability to do that kind of stuff. The National Institute of Automotive Service Excellence Education Foundation, wonder who named that,
Wow, man.
has
What does that
found,
spell? That must spell something really cool,
it must be, I hope so, for a name that long.
right?
But so this group, this foundation has found that 42% of automotive technology graduates stay in the profession for only about 2 years. How about that for churn? And that electrical power grid that all these EV cars that are really in demand now will be relying on in the years to come. The IEEE, which is another professional society, says that about 50% of the energy workforce may retire over the next 5 to 10 years. And like many trades, I bet recruiting folks into roles like electricians are extremely difficult. They got to be, because we're hearing ads about every day on the radio for sports talk radio
Yeah.
here in Atlanta. So
We were
Greg,
hearing that before the Great Resignation, right?
good point.
Any of those skilled industries, HVAC, electrical, plumbing. What else do you have in your house?
But you make a great point, because we all rely on these talented aspects of society, every day. And that's where I found this article and just the factoids I shared and some other stuff in the article. Not eye-opening if you've been kind of paying attention to the labor workforce, but we've got some serious problems. It's not even sneaking up on us. It's going to be here really soon. But Greg, what was your take here?
Well, it's been happening for nigh on a decade now, right? I mean, 10,000 baby boomers a day leave the workforce one way or the other. And last year, 3.6 million on top of that left the workforce. This great myth that the Great Recession was all Gen Zers, Gen Xers, well, a lot of Gen Xers, but Gen Zers and millennials is coming home to roost. I had an interesting discussion with one of my Gen Z daughters, who I won't name, but you know who you are, about all the power and freedom that they have because of the Great Resignation. And I'm thinking, if you want anything done, you better replace your grandparents who left the workforce, because it wasn't your generation who left the workforce, right? And I wonder how some of these things will turn out. For instance, the housing market is now officially in recession. So, new home starts are drying up. My eldest daughter got her house sold just before the market, I wouldn't say crashed, but it is crashing in some markets, started its big downturn. And you can expect some of those construction jobs that were required to no longer be required. So I think we'll reach some level of equilibrium in the construction industry, certainly. But I think one of the things that is so interesting, Scott, is not only is there a stuff shortage, but there is a people shortage. And as economies around the world slow, as those who are, again, honest, they confess that they are in recession, which many have, including China, who has an incredible problem with an overabundance of housing, and now an incredible debt crisis because
Right.
a lot of the developers are defaulting on their debt.
That really quick aside, that is a
Yep.
fascinating story, folks. Y'all should Google or YouTube that, because the house of cards, in some respects, in that industry, in real estate and construction in China, it is amazing.
Feels a little bit like 2008, doesn't it, Scott?
right.
I mean, for them,
Right? Yeah,
right?
sure.
But I think in any case, we're going to start to see some equilibrium here. And what I'm curious about is, as the economy starts to come back in the next year or two or three, whatever it takes, as the economies start to come back, will those roles be filled by human beings, right? Because a lot of these roles that are being left open were populated largely by people over 53 years old, most of whom, all but the first 3 years of that, are baby boomers, right? If you're 56 or less, or is it 57 or less, whatever, you're a Gen Xer. But everybody above that is a baby boomer, and they are starting to leave the workforce in even greater droves than they were before. So what is going to happen when that occurs? And I think we've seen people staying away in droves from certain of those jobs. We've talked about fulfillment, warehouse and manufacturing roles that remain unfilled, truck drivers.
Yep.
And by the way, I think it's great that everyone wants to nurture truck driving, but they are not coming back.
Yeah.
Right. And we will either figure out how to do that another way, or we will always have a shortage from now until the end of time.
Yep.
So, we have to acknowledge these things, because it's not just stuff supply chain. It's also talent supply chain that is having a great transition and disruption. Yep. The difference with the talent supply chain is that disruption is permanent. Some baby boomers will probably come back to the workforce because they'll be forced to by the downturn in the economy. I'm going to just call it recession. Is it okay if I just call it recession?
Hey, your call.
Yeah. Any of you deniers, just give me a call and we'll talk about it. By recession and the impact of that. But I don't think a lot will, because so many of them are at or near retirement age.
Yep.
And that is the largest generation in the history of Earth, the baby boomers. So there will be jobs that will be unable to be filled. And it's concerning, but I really think we're at a good time and space with technology and autonomous and various and sundry things, so people don't have to do some of those dark, dirty, dangerous, and dull jobs.
It will be solved. It will be solved.
Oh, unquestionably, it'll be solved.
Really quick, sharing a couple comments here. Josh, going back to we were replacing our references. Josh says, getting rad with lingo for the hip new generation of supply chain. Hey, we're trying, Josh. We are trying.
Oh, with the TikTok thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Shelly.
He just gave himself up as a Gen Xer using rad. Right.
Shelly, you're right. Micro does have a very powerful message, and he's taking real action about these essential jobs. Excellent point there. Shashi's back with us from Dubai, right? We were just talking about Kim Winter and the UAE momentarily, a few minutes ago, rather. Shashi says, here, everything's back normal. The Dubai government relaxed visas to ensure supply of talents. This is amazing for us here. He goes on to say, construction's booming again. All the cranes are back in action, which means real estate prices are back like pre-COVID-19. How about that, Greg?
That's great. I mean, they've exploded here in the States and now imploding in the States and China and various and sundry other markets. So wait for opportunity, Shashi. That would be my suggestion.
Shashi, great to have you here once again on the Buzz. Marie, hey, I love your weighing in by the truckload here today. She says, I started talking to a contractor last fall to remove a deck and replace with a sunroom. He agreed to the job. Took almost a year to complete. I think we all kind of are relating.
Lucky you.
Lucky.
He agreed to the job.
Right.
Yeah. That's frustrating time frame, but I mean, that's just the way it's been, right?
Yep. Shelly says once her handyman retires, which is soon, there's she's got no replacement. A lot of folks are probably feeling that pinch.
Mine already did. So yeah.
Greg says companies really need to start mentoring the next generation and start preparing. Start preparing. All right. So Greg, and by the way, just to close this last segment out, y'all check out that was via Market Watch. The future of transportation, as the article is entitled, is on a collision course with retirement, workforce recruitment, and rescaling. So check that out. I think we're dropping a link to that in just a second. Okay, Greg.
Yes,
again,
Scott.
Jam-packed episode here today. All right, jam-packed episode. We got one last thing to share with folks as we look to really, again, we want to be a clearinghouse of resources and perspective and expertise here at Supply Chain Now for our global family. And one of the things we launched a week or two ago.
Great photograph that is, first of all.
Well, so get this. So we had a label on this photograph. And now I'm hearing from Clay Phillips' attorney. No, I'm kidding. Actually, that was
no doubt and should.
Right. That
Clay,
is
make sure you
from Clay Phillips as he attended the Atlanta Braves game at some point. I think it was last Friday night. And so I thought it fit in perfectly with some of the themes we had with our new LinkedIn newsletter. So this edition came out Wednesday. This edition came out last Saturday. And our newsletter is called With That Said, right? So this edition was called Moving Heaven and Earth with Purpose. And that's what that image, it's like the heavens beaming down on the supply chain stage, right? There's nowhere to hide, as Greg, as you have shared time and time again. Well, get this though, Greg. We have got maybe one or maybe two editions of With That Said out just in the last week and some change. And we are approaching 9,000 subscribers as of this morning, at least. So folks, check it out, subscribe so you don't miss it. We really want it to be a complimentary piece, really focusing on some perspectives you may have missed from our hosts and some of the programming, some resources and other opportunities to learn, going back to what John was saying earlier, to network, to do good. So y'all check it out. If you go to the Supply Chain Now company page on LinkedIn, over to the right, you should see a section under our events that says newsletters. Click there. You'll be able to subscribe and read the past edition, and we'd welcome your feedback. Now, one last thing, Greg.
Yes,
and
Scott.
then I'm going to get your take. So for the subscribers, the new subscribers for this week, right, folks that subscribe in the next couple of days, we're offering. It's going to be a drawing. Everyone's not getting this. Our attorneys, let's keep the communication accurate.
Right.
This is a drawing, but Billy Ray Taylor, one of our hosts here, has published a book called The Winning Link, and we got several of our first copies. We'll see about getting autographed, but we're going to give a few of those out to some of our early subscribers. To With That Said, our LinkedIn newsletter. And Greg, maybe, let me see which way am I turning here. It may be as impactful as one of my favorite books. Ray Attia may be listening here today. The Fearless Front Line. Run, Improve, Grow. Y'all Google that and Google the Fearless Front Line and Ray Attia. But Winning Link, by all accounts, early in its release, is turning some heads. Greg, with that said, your thoughts?
I think it's a great place to accumulate kind of what has gone on in the week for Supply Chain Now and what that has led us to think or talk about or share or discover. And I just think that it's amazing. First of all, 9,000 people in 2 weeks. That's really pretty impressive. So, and it's a cool accumulation of articles and episodes and just kind of general discussion. So, let us know what you think, by the way, and we'll tune it to whatever you'd like to see. It's not as cool as seeing us in person. Do you think, Scott? It can't possibly be. But if you can't see us in person, or if you want an easy link to what we've talked about in person, with that said,
check it out.
I'll leave it to you.
With that said, and Shashi, if you go to Supply Chain Now, the company page, in fact, Amanda or Clay, if we can drop the link in here. And by the way, big thanks to the production team, our team here to help make these shows happen. Thank you, Clay, Amanda, Chantel, Catherine. But Shashi, if you go to Supply Chain Now on LinkedIn, the company page, over to the right-hand side, you will see a newsletter category. Click on that, and you'll be able to follow or subscribe to the newsletter. So, Shashi, thanks for that question. And Yasser, Hey, you joined in here at the tail end of the party, but welcome and hello to you from Houston, Texas, a really cool city.
We were talking
Yasser's,
about hot and humid earlier today, Yasser. So welcome.
man, I bet it's
And
114
Houston,
degrees in
fun.
Houston.
Yes.
But Yasser, we go live every Monday at 12 noon Eastern time for the Supply Chain Buzz, 12
Yep.
noon Eastern time. So join us, and we look forward to your perspective.
Or subscribe to our newsletter with
Or
that
subscribe.
said, and you'll get a link.
It's just that easy. And Greg, I want to pick back up as we start to wrap
Yep.
up here. That will evolve, like everything else. We launched it. We're testing some things out. We're tweaking things. We're going to refine it. We want to make it as valuable. There's so many newsletters, LinkedIn and otherwise out there. We want this to stand alone and be a really helpful and practical resource. So your feedback, we welcome it. But watch it as it evolves over the coming weeks. But right now, it's weekly, Saturday mornings, and check it out at the Supply Chain Now Company page on LinkedIn. Okay, Greg, I am surprised it's 1:00, and we have knocked out.
How do we do it?
I don't know how we did it. I thought we'd be 1:15 because we jammed a lot into this episode, but had a heck of a time. All the great comments. No, we couldn't get to all of them. But we had a room full here today. Greg, your final key takeaway. What's your final thought you want to leave with folks?
Yeah, I think the thing that we need to identify as, and you mentioned it, Scott, as supply chain professionals, is the world is not more complex than it was before supply chain was discovered by the world. It is just discovered by the world. And I think it's important for us as practitioners to distinguish between those things that are either temporary or permanent, but new disruptions, and the old disruptions that are simply more exposed and more aware to the common observer than they were before. Right. And it's important also for us to not prioritize those necessarily by that, but also to recognize that, because there are some things that companies have been really, really effective managing, some companies more effective than others, and they shouldn't change just because they perceive that the world has changed when really only the world's awareness and perception has changed. There are at least two columns, right? That which has really changed and changed permanently or temporarily, and that which the world has simply become aware of. A thing that has changed, for instance, whether we want to confess it or not, forever, is the driver shortage in terms of transportation. Just my opinion. Remember, not an economist, but accurate as one. So let's say that is something permanent. We need to take a different tack to that than Ever Given getting jammed in the Suez Canal, which, by the way, has happened before. So, or this new, and this was fascinating. On with that said, Ever a Lot. I still think they ought to name one ship Ever Aground, because they seem to always be. But Ever a Lot, a ship that can carry 24,000 TEUs.
Yes.
The biggest container ship in the world. Ever a Lot. Not the most creative name, but I guess appropriate, right?
What, Bobby, what should we call this thing? Ever a Lot.
Yeah. I like it.
It's got a ring to it.
Yeah.
All right.
But I think that's important for people to recognize, is these things that the world thinks are constant and new disruptions when we know better. For instance, weather, to address Texas, since we have some listeners here from Texas. The weather has been bad in Texas in the wintertime before, and we survived it, and we survived it again. In fact, people don't even refer back to it now that they can get paint and various and sundry other things. So again, I think we just have to be more thoughtful and the cooler heads in this, not be driven like politicians are by the women fancy of the greater public.
Well said there, Greg. And I like what Josh says here: keep your eyes open, your spirits up, and your feet ready to pivot.
There you go.
That's not accurate.
I like that.
you and Shelly and all the other folks, Greg, Shashi, Mark, Marie. I really appreciate all of y'all's contributions here today. All right, as we wrap, check out Google The Winning Link by Billy Ray Taylor. I promise he's one of the greatest storytellers you'll rub
He
elbows
is
with.
really and truly, in person or on paper, by the way.
That is right. Big shout out to my buddy Ray Atia, who made a big impact on my journey. I think these books are, I think this you can't find too many copies out there. So who knows? I might sell this one for $5,000, Greg. I don't know. It depends on the market. But Ray, if you're listening, hope you and your family are doing well. Look forward to catching up soon. But folks, I would just challenge you. Think about as consumers. We were talking earlier, a couple of stories back. We were identifying some companies that really were doing the right thing, right? And that is so important. Voting with our wallets. That will, if we do that, if we do it more and more, we're going to drive more behavior, right? Because all these companies, a lot of them are driven, of course, by sales and revenue. If it's important to the consumers, it will be important to them. So
But
vote
you
with
have
your
all
wallet.
the power. Yeah,
That's right.
excellent point.
All right, folks. But whatever you do, I hope to see you every Monday at 12 noon Eastern time. We go live here at the Supply Chain Buzz. Me and Greg are joined by movers and shakers across the globe oftentimes. Most importantly, our Supply Chain Now family that show up in the cheap seats, the comments, and we love all of that perspective. On behalf of our entire team, Scott Luton and Greg White signing off for today, but challenging you, as always, hey, do good, give forward, and be the change that's needed. And with that said, we'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.